We're in Matthew 23. Jesus is assessing the leaders of his day, and he's teaching us about leadership. He's diagnosed their front stage. It's unhealthy. It's characterized by self-worship. And then he tells us why this has happened. He's diagnosed it to the point of giving us the root cause. The root cause is you didn't enter in. And what's really interesting, just as we exit out of that section, verses 13 through 15, this is part of the challenge. We will say to ourselves, well, hey, wait a minute. Don't be too hard on the front stage, because look at all the people that are being impacted. Look at all the souls that are being changed. Look at all the people that are being saved. But Jesus said this. Look at this. As he came out of that passage, just going back to the section we just looked at, he says, you travel across sea and land to make a single proselyte, a convert. He's addressing that very objection. That objection that says, okay, it's okay. Yes, this leader's abusive, or yes, this leader doesn't have their act together really. But look at all the good that's happening. And Jesus is saying, no, actually, here's the critical nature of this prompt, as I've called it, enter in. You can only teach people if you're entering in. You're teaching people to be like you. So if I teach on prayer, and I'm eloquent and so gifted at teaching people about prayer, but I don't pray, then I will be teaching them to be like me. I'll be teaching them to honor prayer, to think highly of prayer, but not to pray. So Jesus identifies this cause, and now he goes in section 3 to the prognosis. If left untreated, it brings death. It brings death to the backstage. An unhealthy front stage characterized by self-worship, failure to enter in, brings death to the backstage. Let's look at it. Now, this is a 20-verse section. We'll only look at a few verses. This will give you a flavor. Jesus is continuing the woes, the judgments. And he says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the plate. So this is the emphasis on the front stage, the external, the outward. You are really concerned with how you appear. You clean the outside of the cup, but inside, backstage, they are full of greed and self-indulgence. That is so descriptive. Okay, front stage, when it's unhealthy, self-worship. Remember, they do everything to be seen. We do everything to be seen by others. We want to be exalted. We want others to just think, wow, Brian's amazing, okay? That leads to death on the backstage, which is characterized by self-indulgence. This is how it works. Rather than entering in myself and knowing the true worship of the living God and the love that he gives me and the grace that he gives me and the restoration, replenishment of my own soul and the joy of knowing him. Just that long story I told about Jack Malik, right? The true love of Lily James. Rather than knowing Jesus, I'm seeking to be exalted. That leads to this death of my soul. And I seek refuge in overindulgence through numbing my soul to a little more of whatever it is. A little more alcohol, a little more this, a little more this, a little more, so it continually takes more. So my soul becomes characterized by greed. So these two words, self-worship, self-indulgence, front stage, backstage, in many ways are just like placards over the sin of the front stage and the backstage. Helpful, I think, to make those connections. Then Jesus says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, For you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and uncleanness. So death is the characteristic of where this self-indulgence takes us and what it's characteristic of. This uncleanness as well. Just some really dark, toxic emotions, values, loves going on behind the curtain. So you outwardly appear righteous to others, but within are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness, like literally without restraint. And this is interesting because whenever we see a leader fall, we'll say, well, man, why? Why did the people in his or her life not see this? Why didn't they do something about it? And I think there's a couple of explanations right here that Jesus is giving us. For one, they appear to really have it together. They fool us. They appear to be righteous. And as we saw in the previous section, which we just talked about, we're looking at the fruit. We're looking at all the good, and we're making this false connection that if there's effectiveness on the front stage, it must mean a healthy backstage. And Jesus is teaching us, no, actually, that's not the case. So we come to this reflection. Let's take a minute. Just let me introduce this to you, and then you can just freeze frame it right there and reflect some on your backstage. Is your inner person characterized by life or death? Authenticity or self-indulgence? Review your backstage considering this portion of that text, verses 25 through 28. Jesus invites you to enter in, to receive cleansing, to receive renewal. Then take a minute and record what God shows you.